I'm Dr. Ter Majok, working as Principal Researcher and Analyst for the Committee of Intelligence and Security Services of Africa in the AU. So happy to be invited. Thank you very much. To begin with my presentation, my scope as this presentation will be categorized into three. One will be a short overview, be followed by the functions or establishment of CISSA, and then I will end it up with the function of ISC in the office of the African Union Commission. So to begin with, esteemed chairperson of the panel, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. The Committee of Intelligence and Security Services of Africa consider it as a privilege. Consider it as a privilege to be invited to make such a presentation to this August panel on the functions of intelligence and security committees in the office of the chairperson of the African Union Commission. I also take this opportunity to convey to you the best wishes of the Executive Secretary and the staff of the CISSA Secretariat in Addis Ababa. Let me first highlight that the African Union has an elaborated peace and security architecture to enhance intelligence and information sharing for the prevention, management, and resolution of conflict on the continent. These intelligence structures act as early warning mechanism to enable the AOC chairperson, the AU Peace and Security Council, and other AU organs takes informed decision to address the multiplicity of security threats affecting our continent, which have become increasingly complex and extremely difficult to address without cooperating. This perspective, the reorganization and the reorientation of the intelligence and information structure within the AU, the setting up of the Continental Early Warning Mechanisms, CISSA, ISC, and also the Djibouti Ported process to enhance intelligence collection. Establishment of CISSA and its roles within the African Union peace and security architecture. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the January 2005 midterm assembly of the African Union head of the states and government by decision 62 endorsed the formation of CISSA and also established the ISC to facilitate direct interface between the CISSA Secretariat and the AUC. Before elaborating on the function of the ISC, which is the focus of my presentation this afternoon, let me contextualize my presentation by providing a brief background of CISSA and its role within the African Union peace and security architecture. CISSA gave birth to the ISC. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, CISSA is the first of its kind in Africa, and it is the sixth and silent pillar of the African Union peace and security architecture. It was created to provide strategic intelligence to the APSC, the African Union Peace and Security Council is another anchor to the APSA in institutional framework and is supported by several other mechanisms, namely the African Union Commission, the Panel of the Wise, the Continental Early Warning Systems, the African Union Standby Force, and the Peace Fund. Regional economic committees and regional mechanisms also form part of the overall security mechanism to the APSA. Esteemed Chairperson of the panel, the success, efficiency, and reliance of the APSCA is effectively discharging its mandate is predicted to a large extent on availability of sound strategic intelligence. This is because most of the security threats that the APSA is mandated to address thrive on secrecy and are complex in nature, thereby requiring intelligence to unearth them. CISSA was therefore created to flag these intelligence gaps within the APSA and has indeed delivered on its mandate because of its wider continental reach. It has 53 member services across the entire continent. Through CISSA's highly networked engagement, the APSA is a very different continental perspective on security threats on the continent, thereby enhancing the African Union capacity to address conflict threats. CISSA works closely with other information structure within the African Union, such as the queues, as I mentioned earlier. These two organizations complement each other as the queues focus on open source harvesting and does not have access to that critical mass of information that is not on the open domain, which puts CISSA on the edge due to its wider reach across the entire continent. CISSA has plugged the queues information gap by providing that critical intelligence component. CISSA is also a critical participant within the Djibouti Nokoti process. The two processes comprise CISSA member services. Furthermore, CISSA has a permanent seat within the African Union Peace and Security Council and provides council with legal intelligence for the adaptations of, among others, an African policy and a strategy for conflict prevention, management, and resolution. Ladies and gentlemen, CISSA does not pursue covert collections of intelligence on its own accord. It relies on member services to provide necessary intelligence. Due to the sensitive nature of CISSA's mandate, it has an independent operational mandate from the African Union. The ISC, therefore, acts as a permanent operational link between the two entities. Functions of the ISC. The main mandate of the ISC is to receive reports from the CISSA Secretariat, the African Union departments, the African Union organs, and African Union partners, as well as the United Nations structures and other partners, and to prepare an intelligence brief for the AUC chairperson on evolving issues on the continent. The ISC is also tasked to provide early warning signals on issues pertaining to peace and security, political development, and socio-economic matters, health, and other trends that may impact negatively on our continent. It also monitors and analyzes international events that could impact on our continent, such as terrorism and the spread of disease, pandemics, etc., and other harmful trends. The ISC has continued to build bridge to CISSA to cooperate with all AU structures and has been keeping the African Union Commission chairperson abreast of developments and processes going on our beloved continent. The ISC is headed now by a coordinator who reports directly to the AUC chairperson, and have other 5 officers within the committee. With this, distinguished chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, this is my submission, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ter Majok. I would actually like to immediately pose a an immediate question to you here regarding the sort of overall relatedness of the Intelligence and Security Committee in terms of its linkages with some of the African Union institutions and its relation, particularly with the Continental Early Warning System. I wonder if you could expand on that in terms of the sort of types of reportings that are received by the Intelligence and Security Committee from the Continental Early Warning System, as far as you also deal with the sort of continental intelligence estimates and sort of information procured from CISSA as well. How would you place both sets of sort of research and reports that are delivered by the Continental Early Warning System, which is based on open source intelligence, versus the type of submission made by the Committee of Intelligence and Security Services of Africa?
Thank you very much, my brother, for asking these questions. In fact, these are 2 domains. The open domain that is taken care by the Qs, and the reports that generate for the Committee of Intelligence and Security Services. And of course, if you look at our world, you said 90% of the information of security data that we get, we have roughly 10% of that could be basically an intelligence that need thorough search and confirmation for member services. Has alluded earlier that we are not getting the covert intelligence, or we are not searching the intelligence on our own here, but we connect physically with various services that are member to CISSA, and they will give us more detailed, in-depth on the issues. For instance, when we have issue of terrorists in Kenya, for example, we will ask Kenya to give us more details of what happened exactly, and then through the data that we have here, we will be able now to mine deeper to give us more breadth, and then give recommendation of what could be done to prevent such an attack or such a threat to appear once again in the same. So within us now, within the research, we are able to take from the existing data and refine through getting more details from the report that come from the service based on the directives given to us. Let's say now the 2022, let's say the 2022 theme now will be focusing much on food security, on climate change, etc., etc. So we will be dipping in area of this food security so that we can get those threats that can actually impact on our environments and what can actually impact member services for us to be able now to gear toward the goal set by the African unions. So I believe within the collections, we are able to get something that is tangible, something that is tangible. Let's say now on the situation that happened recently in Sudan, we were able to project what are the likelihood of this situation happen? And indeed, it happened. And as we speak now, the situation in Sudan is still moving on, as we all see the military have actually taken over. So I believe within this, we are able now to interact and able to dig more deeper within the context of our expertise within this field that we have invested for many years. Thank you.
Mr. Mangena, you have your hand raised. Please do unmute and share your comments on this as a colleague of Dr. Majok.
Thank you so much. As alluded by Dr. Ter, CISSA and the Qs, we are there to complement each other, to ensure that the African Union Peace and Security Council, as well as the AUC chairperson, is well informed on all the developments which are happening in the country through delivering intelligence, particularly early warning intelligence. We complement each other in such a way that when the Qs harvest its information from the open sources, sometimes the Qs need some verification on some certain aspects of the information. That is where CISSA now comes. Most of the times we have various engagements of these verifications. As you are aware, the Qs, apart from relying on open sources, it also has liaison offices. But these liaison offices are very few. I think now there are about 15 liaison offices. It's incomparable to CISSA, which is almost in the entire African continent. So CISSA, this is the gap where CISSA now covers in verifying the Q's information where they don't have liaison offices on the ground. The Q's also, they rely on civil society organizations, and that aspect is also a strength to the Q's, taking into consideration that civil society organizations are also in a number of African countries, and they have also a similar big reach like CISSA. But sometimes, apart from getting the information from civil society, they also need to know what CISSA is saying on that particular information, because we have the capabilities to get that secret information which civil society organization might not get. Another issue I want to raise is on the AU reform and the ISC. In fact, the ISC will be renamed CISSA Liaison Unit to conform with the AU reforms. Thank you so much, Mr. Dlamini. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mangena. We will take further questions after Ms. Tadiwanashe has given her official reaction to Dr. Ter Majok's presentation and Mr. Mangena's follow-up clarifications and submissions. Tadiwanashe, are you ready to give your reaction?
Okay. Can you hear me well?
Yes, yes, thank you very much. Please proceed.
I would like to thank Dr. Majok for being here, Dr. Ter Majok, and presenting to us today. I have a rather simple question to ask relating to the peace and security architecture as a whole in CISSA as well. how does the AU define security in terms of functionality and operation? Is security limited to peacekeeping and mediation and armed conflict resolution? Or does the architecture in CISSA include an extended scope of the definition to include things like human security, economic security, and social security? I ask this question with the idea that a definition like this would be too broad, and maybe other sectors of the AU would cover such things, but also with the concept of cybersecurity in mind as well, because Africa has become more digitalized, especially in the economic sector with the rise of things like mobile money and cryptocurrency. So from my understanding, cybersecurity in developed nations is an issue of national security. And because their critical infrastructure and their militaries are dependent on the cyberspace for operations. But for developing nations and many African nations, cybersecurity is often associated with economic and human security more than national or even regional security. I understand there was a convention, an AU convention on cybersecurity and personal data protection, but only 10 member states signed onto the convention, and Mauritius and Senegal are the only 2 countries that have ratified the convention. So my question is, does the CISSA or the African peace and security architecture as a whole collect information on economic and human security threats? And I think Dr. Majok alluded to collecting data on climate change and things like that, but also with threats that primarily present themselves online, such as hacktivists or cyber criminals, things like that. And I think with the shift of threats in our modern age, particularly due to the push by the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen the transnational nature of peace and security, that threats which are regional or in one nation can quickly become regional threats or global threats. So globalization has created a global village via the cyber internet space, which gives criminals and violent groups the ability to spread their message and widen their operations much more. Does CISSA or the AU engage with big tech, particularly social medias like Facebook, to gather intel on cyber-based terror groups, or regulate companies such as Cambridge Analytica, which is known for intervening in the US elections, the 2016 US elections, and there's been allegations that it also had a hand in the Kenyan elections, 2013 and 2017. So I wanted to ask that how does the architecture as a whole in CISSA address protecting African data on large social media platforms, as well as protecting the youth from radicalization, or social media from being used as a radicalization youth, particularly for the youth, and also being used as a tool for shifting public opinion, particularly during the times of elections for the various member states. And also I wanted to ask the question on data sharing with CISSA, and does CISSA and the different frameworks within the architecture have any data sharing agreements with other intelligence communities from other regions all over the world? Do they engage with other intelligent organizations? And if they do, how do you decide which data can be shared, sensitive data, which data can be shared with which organization, and the process of data validating for the information that is shared to CISSA and the architecture as a whole? So yes, that is the questions I have today. Thank you for your time.
All right, please, Dr. Majok, and the question is, the questions are laid before you. I'm also seeing Mr. Abubakar Al Hassan, but I don't know if you have managed to hear most of the presentation. So please, Dr. Majok, please do proceed to react to this set of questions and comments that Ms. Ms. Tadiwanashe had.
Thank you very much, my sister, for your comments. In fact, when you look at the security encompasses everything. And if you put it closer now to the new paradigm shift, which is human security, I think if you look at our inner structure, the 7 pillars of human security are actually embodied. If you visit each member services structure, you'll find that you have a desk for political, for economic, for cyber, etc., etc. We are not just looking only on a one-sided, but we are actually covering the entire spectrum of security. And we mine deeply now in the intelligence what can actually affect us and how it can be prevented from actually happening. Now, on sharing the information, as an intelligent organization, sharing an information will actually have questions. And I don't think that we have basically shared any information with any other organization outside our continent. We are basically a continental institution, and our line our line sharing of information is basically with the member services that are member to us, unless if at all for only on issue maybe of publication, this where we may have an MOU that we can sign with reputable, recognized institution that can that have an interest in publication, in our publication that we normally do, so that they can actually have a wider coverage. Cybersecurity, yes, as we look now, the transnational crimes are actually on growth. They are moving now from a state to the other, and this has been covered right now by the services, and we also cover that. So whatever trend of threats that we have in the continent, they are all within our portfolio. And therefore, if something that we are not seeing clearly, we will ask a member service now to give us more detail, because they might be now at the peak of their situations. So with us, as an intelligence institutions, our eyes are open, and our data are also secure. And each member services in Africa do also protect her data. And therefore, on our side, the data are being protected. And I believe that the system that we have are able now to provide enough protection to whatever we have in our system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Majok. Tadiwanashe, are you feeling satisfied that you have been answered adequately?
I am satisfied with the answer. I think the questions was answered, but the only thing that wasn't answered was with regards to the protection of data and engagement with big tech like Facebook, and the use of data for persuading people during times of elections, shifting public opinions. Is that something that CISSA or any of the frameworks or within the architecture addresses or regulates? Yeah.
Dr. Majok?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, thank you. I think on the issue of protection, I have actually mentioned it. I said we are able to protect what we have. And today, if you look at this social platform, they were not developed by Africans. So the base that developed those social networks are not here in Africa. And we don't have any authority now to regulate them, because they have their own regulations. And when you sign as an individual, you don't sign as a country, you sign as a particular individual to use that sexual platforms. What we can only say that we can protect is the data that we have. Of course, we are seeing what is happening on those social media. We pick what interests us, and then now we mine more into that area. But we don't have an authority to regulate this social media platform, Facebook, Instagrams, name them. So they have their rules that when you sign as an individual, and you believe that that platform can serve your purpose of you joining that platform. So for us, we don't have that authority. We don't have that authority unless if we are the one who have developed that social network. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will take 2 questions from Dr. Abaho, then from Dr. Solomon Asiimwe, and then the first respondent to those and to these questions will be Mr. Mangena. So please, Dr. Anne.
Thank you very much, Finani. I just want to build on my sister's submission on cybersecurity. And as the presenter made submission, I couldn't help but keep thinking of the allegations by the Chinese government and the hacking into the African Union servers. Information came out around December 2020 by, I think, either a virus or called the Bronze President. And yes, as much as this may not have been the information at CISSA, but the fact that there has been a hint that CISSA shares information with the other organs of the African Union, you just can't be sure where Africa as a continent stands, especially with this digital growth, but also the digital divide across the world. That being said, I want to pose the question, but maybe before the question, thank the CISSA for conducting intelligence beyond state survival. He has made mention that they look at other areas of security, including the environment. And my question goes particularly to the recent insecurity we had on COVID-19, how prepared CISSA was to alert the African continent as part of its early warning network, to alert the African continent to prepare for COVID-19 because of its implications on security, particularly health. And how prepared are we now as a continent for related in future for related issues, and what lessons do we pick, if any? My other question is, recently the UK government made an alert to the Ugandan government that there was likelihood of a bomb attack. Unfortunately, not so long after the alert, there indeed was a bomb attack, maybe not to the magnitude as expected, but there was. And I am wondering if CISSA could have had such information, and if CISSA had shared such information before it comes from a distant neighbor, we could probably get it from a caretaker of the continent within. I thank you.
Dr. Solomon?
Okay, thank you very much, Fulani, and I want to thank my old friend, Dr. Ter. I'm happy to see you here. And I want to thank CISSA, what they are doing. My only question and challenge is CISSA seems to be really, yes, a state-centric agency. And when I was reading, I found that the members are security intelligence services of countries. I wanted to know whether they have ratified these organizations. Have parliaments of states ratified the formation of these agencies, or they have remained really agencies of intelligence organizations? So if they have remained like that, how do they get funding if parliaments have not ratified them? If they ratified them, that's good. And that's what I want to know. And then The other thing I want to ask is how really possible is it for them to share intelligence if it is very hard, actually, even internally, to share this intelligence within the countries? I don't think in Uganda, for example, the intelligence service can share information with the academia, can share information with other sectors of government. How easy is it for them to share it at the continental level? The third thing I want to find out, what's the relationship of CISSA and the East African, there's something in Uganda here called the East African Intelligence Fusion Center, which has around 10 member states. Is there a relationship with CISSA with this? Thank you.
Dr. Majok, please do.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm actually happy to see my sister Anne and also Asiimwe on this forum.
Thank you.
Basically, as an intelligent organization, the challenges are really great. And you see now we are moving now from a stage to a stage. As I said, 53 members within the continent. Each challenge, of course, takes its line. When we come now to the COVID-19 predictions, we have that, but the issue is you can share the information, but the action is not in your hand. Implementing maybe the prediction that we have given to member service. You can tell them, yes, there's a bomb happening, this is here. But if they don't take action, or if they don't keep up us, but for us, we have given the information. Now it is up. So when you look, when the September 11th about the attacks, but people didn't. There was not. I think we have learned a lot from this. Actually giving us an economic hardship because of businesses have gone down, and we were relying on what rather than consolidated the little when we have such situations. So on information sharing, we are still now, as I said, the sharing of intelligence is limited. We are focusing, serving now the African Union Commission, and then the member services that we all came from. And in regard to our funding, our funding comes from the member services. So the member service have their contribution annually, and those contributions help us run the institutions. Now, in regard to the fusion centers, we have one in Entebbe and the other one in Goma, and their work is basically now to inform the member services within that, and we get what they get that help us in that, because they are on the ground. We can say it. Let the future center in Uganda help us on this trend. They will tell us this is what happened, and this is what we share with the member services, because everybody there is from member services, and I believe the members that are serving in that fusion centers comes from the East Africa, from the East Africa community. And I remember when they did the opening, I also went there and gave some presentation on the small arms and light weapon collaborations. So in a nutshell, our funding comes from the member services, and we share only with the member services based on the MOU that we have with them as as members, and the member services can request us if there's an issue that they are not able to get, they can ask the executive secretary of CISSA that we have an issue on this front, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And within less than a time, we will be able now to give that information that will help them react on timely on those threats that they might actually have. And that's why saying those fusions, but the utility of timely intelligence that comes from those.
Let me just augment what Dr. Ter had already explained. I will start with Dr. Solomon's interventions, particularly. Hello? Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. The interventions, particularly on the funding of CISSA. CISSA entirely gets its funding from member services. And why is it getting its funding from member services only and not from partners? This was meant to ensure that CISSA is not compromised. Because when you get your funding from external partners, it means you can be compromised by those partners, because they will be needing more information from you. So CISSA gets its funding entirely from member services. Dr. Solomon also alluded to the issue that is it feasible to share intelligence, particularly taking into consideration that intelligence services, they normally don't share their information. What happens at CISSA is that we share intelligence of a transnational nature. We share intelligence on curbing the threats that cut across the continent. You know, that kind of intelligence, member services, they are really cooperating in giving CISSA that kind of intelligence. On CISSA's relations with the East Africa Fusion and Liaison Unit. In fact, what happens is that CISSA, in executing its mandate, it cooperates with similar organizations across the continent. This includes the Regional Intelligence and Fusion Unit of the Multinational Joint Task Force against Boko Haram. It also includes the Intelligence and Fusion Unit of the Sahelo-Saharan region. Then there is the East Africa Fusion and Liaison Unit. We also cooperate with the SADC Regional Early Warning Center. So apart from cooperating with member services, we also cooperate with these fusion liaison centers, which gives us our intelligence. On the issue of cybersecurity, CISSA is a cybersecurity policy which guides the operations of individual member services in case of any challenges caused by the abuse of the cyberspace. So basically, this is my intervention. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. The discussion was really fruitful.
And what I want to point is that the consumers of the entire intelligent product are basically the head of states, the presidents in respective member states. Now, when the product, when this product is produced here, it goes to the highest, and then now from there, the chairpersons can interact with those levels politically. The work of intelligence basically is collection based on directives given, and then evaluate, analyze, and integrate that need to be put into action by members, services, or by member countries. Now, in line with this, why are we doing all this? It's basically to enhance the decision making at the highest level. Africa has so many problems, and we see them every day. Like when we have a theme, silencing the gun by year 2020. Did it happen now? It's still, we are saying we have done this, the disarmament here, the proliferation there, the conflict here and there, and we are continuing now, even having military coups in the continent. So the challenges will actually continue, and the functions of this security architecture will continue to enhance those decisions. And I believe we will reach to a time whereby the actions are actually taken forward. Now, if you look at the issue to do with the standby force, do we really have a standby force that's ready now to take action immediately? If we say we want to move now to country A, are we ready as member states to provide that force immediately? Or you need to take time to ask members on the contributions, who is to take the lead and all that. We have seen what happened in Somalia. It took the continent time to take action, to move these AMSOM troops there. So with this engagement, we will continue to get those challenges, and we will try our best how we can actually inform the leadership and continue to press those issues. They said if an issue has been raised, no response, we continue also seeing it. And sometimes you don't necessarily see the response in written, but you will see action has been taken at that level. I see my sister on the issue of the bomb in Uganda. The intelligence were there. People were alerted, and the security forces within Uganda were at the higher alert. We also need to note that the terrorists are also thinking. We think this way, they are also thinking, and they are trying to see where are the gaps, and therefore we will basically continue. And I hope in our next discussion we will have time to stress some issues for us to be able to read on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here with us today to deliver this presentation. I would like to thank you on behalf of the Early Career Scholars Group. I'd also like to thank you on the behalf of our organization at the African Intelligence Studies Collective. As we can see, this conversation is only opening up recently because CISSA as an organization has started to interact a lot more openly. One of the reasons that has taken place primarily has to do with the MOU signed between CISSA and the African Union Commission in 2015, which opened the way for CISSA to make some of these engagements. We also see CISSA getting involved with security sector reform and also developing relationships with civil society as well. So it's something that is first of its kind, and it's something that is still under a lot of research. The way that the African Union is approaching and thinking about intelligence, to explicitly have the committee involved in some of these AU mandated programs is arguably the first of its kind throughout the world. It's, as I've mentioned twice already before, a lot of international organizations are very sensitive about using the word intelligence to actually describe the information gathering that happens within these wider institutions. However, I feel that there's also one aspect which CISSA does, which is very, very important, which is it also builds capacity for intelligence services to actually do the work that they do. And it does that under the mandate, as Mr. Mangena was explaining, that to cope and to also react to transnational threats. So the capacity of intelligence services to react to that. Coincidentally, and also off the record, in my interactions with the Continental Early Warning System, I was instructed that the intelligence service in the intelligence and security services currently available, that actually 10 of them are actually undergoing training from the Continental Early Warning System team in order to learn how to conduct open source intelligence. So this goes a long way in opening the discussion that what is it that intelligence and security services do in Africa, and what do they constitute as information gathering? Another aspect we had mentioned is that some of these institutions we are referring to as intelligence organizations are actually security services because they are born of police or military structures. So they may not produce strategic intelligence, nor may they do intelligence analysis. They may produce information which leads immediately actionable information, which doesn't have the extended briefing format of, say, how it would function in a conventional intelligence organization. That being said, there is no widely held belief of what constitutes an intelligence organization throughout all of Africa. The structures are different, the collection philosophies are very different, and so therefore most of these countries we're now being asked to contribute at a continental level what the same grade of information which would constitute a strategic intelligence assessment. It has required aligning the different collection philosophies that they follow all into one particular aspect. So that is one reason why CISSA's work is complicated, but it's also another reason why the Intelligence and Security Committee exists as it does right now. It's because there's all these varying grains of information which can constitute a larger meaning for understanding the security context in Africa, but which require a lot of looking into the way that these organizations work. So without further ado, there's just one more opening for any closing remarks or considerations anyone from the floor may want to bring. This is the last chance to do so before we end the meeting. None? I take it everybody is satisfied with the presentation. I see no varying comments. Thank you very much for your time for attending this seminar. We hope it was fruitful and informative. My personal apologies for my shady network today. It hasn't been doing that on a regular basis, but I hope that the message did get across. Thank you for your time, and until the other week when Mr. Mangena will make a presentation to us, which will go into further details on the operations of CISSA, but then also we'll have Mr. Patrick Kachope, who will focus on intelligence cooperation in East Africa and the mechanisms that exist dealing with East Africa. Thank you so much, and until the next seminar, goodbye.